Now, probably one of the most important things that Fort Collins could do to the health of its economy moving forward is providing strong paying local jobs. And there has recently been an announcement that has made a huge splash in the Northern Colorado area that the USDA is going to be relocating out of Washington, D.C., and Fort Collins is one of the 5 cities that will be relocated to, and my insider information suggests a specific number that is going to be moving to Fort Collins. Now, this is the Fort Collins Lifestyle Channel. We are talking about local events that are impacting housing and the regional economy. My name is Patrick Sukup. If you are considering buying, selling, or investing in the area, give my team and I a call, text, or email. We would love to be an asset on your team. Now, here are some of the things that we are going to be talking about today. What is the USDA and why is Fort Collins on the map of where it will be moving to? How many people are moving here and what do they actually earn? Now, if you're in real estate, what neighborhoods could be impacted and what area might see a jump in home values? And what is the timeline? You know, if you're trying to make plans and act, when should you make some plans? Now, number one, why is USDA making the move? Well, it's making the move across the country. About 2,600 employees are moving out of Washington, D.C. and relocating across different regions. Salt Lake City is going to be the hub, but areas like Fort Collins, Kansas City, Indianapolis, and Raleigh, North Carolina are going to be some other stops for the area. Now, Fort Collins is going to see a relocation of high-paying individuals, and we're going to see a collaboration between Colorado State University and the USDA. Now, we already have some Forest Service locations here in the area, so there's just a lot of synergies. We're located along the mountains, the foothills, so the United States Department of Agriculture is seeing Fort Collins as a strategic location for relocation of these individuals. But I'd say one of the most important relationships is going to be between Colorado State University and the USDA. The backbone of Fort Collins is Colorado State University, and this just solidifies the strength of Colorado State University as well as Fort Collins. Recently, with the advent of AI, I'm like, you know what? What about university learning? Now, they've got these huge funds, endowments, and funds that are coming into this university, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, but if the change of how people explore, you know, university post-high school life changes, well, does Fort Collins see an impact? Well, this is one of those things that kind of solidifies Colorado State University, not only as a university, but as a partner with the federal government to help bring good information, science, research, and technology to the area, and solidifies Colorado State University's relationship with the USDA. Now, how many people are moving here and how much money do they make? You know, what type of jobs are coming to Fort Collins? Well, the reality is we don't necessarily know how many people are coming yet, but insider information suggests that about 500 to 600 people of the 2,600 that are relocating are going to find their way to Fort Collins. Now, these individuals are going to be a GS11 to GS14, making anywhere between $80,000 to $165,000. So we are not talking entry-level jobs. We are talking researchers, scientists, higher ranking federal employees making close to, if not 6 figures and above. So these are DC headquarters staff. They're gonna find their way relocating to Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. And between a dual income, we could see them making anywhere between $180,000 to $250,000. So definitely strong jobs, high earners making their way to Fort Collins. And as far as housing prices go, well, they're going to be moving from kind of the Virginia, DC area where median sales prices are a little bit higher than Fort Collins and making their way to Fort Collins. And so they're going to see this as a little bit of a discount buy. Now, there's an adjustment for pay on the federal side, but coming to the Fort Collins area, they're based off of the Denver Aurora pay scale. So it's going to be a very little difference as far as the pay scale for these individuals relocating from the DC area. And I could see them relocating, parlaying some of the equity that they're having in the Virginia area and moving that into the Fort Collins, Northern Colorado area. Now, I think one of the most important things to talk about is the GDP and economic impact to Fort Collins. It's going to inject the GDP growth anywhere between 160 to over $800 million of impact. Because what they say is when a job comes here, that dollar goes 1.5 to 2.5 times where it would spend. Because, hey, listen, when you move here, you got to hire a plumber that's going to come out and fix your house. And that plumber is going to go spend dollars at the restaurant that they could have. A new business is formed. New services are tailored to these individuals coming here. 500 to 600 people making that $100,000 mark is no small impact to the region in general. Sales tax. We had a sales tax cut, as far as our budget sales tax from the city of Fort Collins because we weren't spending enough. Well, these are going to be high earners that are going to be coming in and spending in the area. So new businesses, strength of businesses, restaurants, the multiplier effect, the GDP impact of these 500 to 600 people, it's crazy to think that it could be between 160 to north of $800 million. And I don't think it stops there because the reality is that federal jobs generally stick around for a much longer time. One thing to consider is, tech startups, well, they're going to be attracted to and kind of driven out of areas where federal jobs, generally speaking, are going to be here for a long time. So these 500, 600 jobs could grow, could shrink maybe a little bit, but generally speaking, we've got 500 to 600 long-time residents that are coming here into the area. And on top of that, we're going to see the CSU multiplier effect where, hey, we've got these jobs, industry, high-paying individuals. We've got the opportunity to bring other researchers, other institutions, other opportunities to the area. So it's not just there. I think it's one of those things that it's the gift that keeps on giving in regards to jobs being the focal point of a strong economy. And that's one thing that I've continued to talk about what Fort Collins lacks and needs more of. Now, the thing to consider is how does this impact real estate, housing, and what can you do to prepare yourself moving forward? So these individuals are coming from kind of the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. Yeah, public transit's a big thing, but they're probably used to traffic, heavy traffic, and commuting anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes a day on a regular basis, if not more than that. Now, the two locations that I've talked about that are already here are off Center Avenue and Prospect, so centrally located. So I would say we're kind of looking at a radius. There's going to be about a 15-minute heavy impact area. So 15 minutes north, south, east, west of kind of basically, let's for all intents and purposes saying the middle of town. So that middle location is going to see the largest impact. Downtown, midtown are going to see housing demand strong. People that are going to move here are going to do their research. If you're doing your research and you're with the USDA, we've helped hundreds of families relocate to the area. We'd love to help you. Reach out, give us a call, text, or email. We are experts in that. But that being said, these individuals might see what Fort Collins is all about: the biking, outdoor culture, the ability to live and bike to work in and around where you work. So that 15-minute radius is going to be pretty big. 30-minute radius, about 20 to 25-minute radius. So you're going to get kind of on the outer banks of the southeast, north of Fort Collins. Yeah, we're definitely going to see some impacts there because, hey, listen, these people are coming. They're used to a little bit of a commute. So even neighborhoods like mine, Huntington Hills, on the southeast side. I live on the southeast side of Fort Collins, but I work in downtown and the north side of Fort Collins, and it's not a big deal for me. So we are going to see that impact probably a little bit more substantially, not as substantially as Midtown, but more substantially kind of than the outer ring, the 30 to 40 minute radius. So the Windsors, Timnath is still going to see a pretty decent impact, but Johnstown, Loveland, Greeley maybe to a lesser extent, they're all going to maybe see a little bit of trickle from people maybe on the lower side of that pay scale for the GS11s at the $80,000 mark who might not have a partner or dual incomes and say, hey, listen, still want to buy a house, can't afford Fort Collins. So we're going to kind of go on the, Windsor side of things or Johnstown side of things. So those areas are going to see an impact. But neighborhoods, like Indian Hills, Mission Hills, South College Heights, Cedar Village, those are going to be some of the areas and neighborhoods that are going to see a large impact of people coming in. Price points, we believe, we're going to see people wanting to buy in about the $600,000 to $750,000 range, moving into Fort Collins at that income scale, especially if they're dual incomes. So if your house is in those neighborhoods, in that price point, when do you need to start planning? Well, the reality is that employees could start moving to Fort Collins in the summer of 2026 and making their way from here. So yes, make the plans. If you're like, hey, listen, this is an opportunity for me to prep, sell, give us a call, talk to us. Let us get your house ready and marketed properly for these individuals that are coming here because we've got a lot of people coming. Now, the reality though is there are still going to be a significant portion also that are going to be renting for the next 6 to 18 months while they get used to the area. They're like, hey, listen, We just got told that we have to move to Fort Collins. We've known about it for a year. We're not ready to buy yet. We're gonna rent for about 6 to 18 months, and then from there we're gonna buy. So rental demand will be strong. So if you're an investor preparing your property properly, this summer is when it starts, but it's gonna move from there. So 500 to 600 people plus their spouses, plus their kids moving to the area in Fort Collins beginning in the summer of 2026. So finally, how does this impact you? Well, I would say if you're a homeowner, the home values in Fort Collins are going to remain strong. In fact, probably gonna see a little bit of an increase because there's gonna be competition. The demand, the supply here in Northern Colorado is definitely strong. Our supply is increasing, but appreciation should be strong. If you're a buyer, well, you might want to get rocking and rolling a little bit sooner than what you were thinking originally because, well, you might be competing against 200-300 people here in the next few months that are high earners. And if you're a USDA employee, service member, doing your research, again, my name's Patrick Sugup with the Sugup Group in Fort Collins. We have helped hundreds of people relocate to Fort Collins. We'd like to be an asset on your team. Whether that be like, hey, listen, I'm not gonna be able to make the trip out here. Could you guys do some in-house tours, in-video tours? Yes, we can make that comfortable. Can you guys talk to us about the area? Everything's done virtually, Zoom, or hey, listen, we're gonna do a short-term rental, 3 months. We'll connect you with a short-term rental here in the area. All the while, get you connected with the lender, prepare, get ready to buy a house in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. And if you're just a Fort Collins resident watching this video, I think this is a good thing overall. A strong economy is really the basis of a strong municipality. And this just provides more strength to the foundation that is Fort Collins and Colorado State University. So in my opinion, this is a great thing. I've talked about it so many times. What Fort Collins needs more of is more high-paying jobs. And this is an influx of 500 to 600 of those. So if this was useful for you, share it with a neighbor. Share it with somebody who's considering relocating to Fort Collins if you're USDA. Share it with somebody who's like, hey, listen, I've been thinking about selling. The market's goofy. It's uncertain. I don't know when to do it. Send this to them. Say, hey, listen, there are 500 to 600 new people moving into Fort Collins in the near future. Get your house on the market. Prepare it properly. We'd like to be an asset on that team. Give us a call, text, or email. Other than that, have a great day. Take care.